On April 3rd, 1962, in a 1-hour, one-time episode titled 7 Against the Sea, television audiences were first introduced to the commander of PT-73, Quentin McHale. This was portrayed by award-winning actor Ernest Borgnine. This Alcoa premiere production chronicles the survival, the lifestyles, and finally the heroics of McHale and his men on a Pacific island during World War II. It received respectable ratings, so ABC ordered a series. But the series that the network wanted was quite different from the tone in the original pilot. McHALES Navy creator and producer Edward Montaigne had great success producing The Phil Silvers Show from 1955 to 1959. It was a situation comedy in a military setting. Storylines followed Sergeant Bilko and his devoted platoon pulling countless crazy stunts over on the camp commander. While 7 Against the Sea was mainly dramatic, Montaigne basically turned the McHale project into a Bilko in the Navy. He actually even recruited and hired Sergeant Bilko actors and writers. The very first episode sets the tone for the entire series. It involves Ensign Parker, who's played by Tim Conway, and his assignment to McHale's crew. This group already had gone through a number of ensigns who could not handle their unmilitary, slothful, and insubordinate ways. Parker is given 1 week to reform the crew or be given the worst reassignment ever. Initially, the crew treats Parker just as badly as they treated the others. However, after McHale realizes Parker has integrity, he decides to help Parker out by having his men be as much more like regular Navy than they are. So the basic idea of this series centers around McHale's crew's zany schemes to either make money, get girls, or simply have a blast. Although they are forever getting into terrible messes because of their scheming and unmilitary ways, they somehow successfully get out of their predicaments. At the time of this series, then President John F. Kennedy was known for his wartime commanding of PT-109 and his actions to save his surviving crew members' lives after they had been rammed by an enemy destroyer. That made him a war hero. The popular book PT-109, John F. Kennedy in World War II, written by Robert Donovan, came out the year before in 1961. PT-109 was sometimes slyly referred to during the series, relating to a young commissioned PT boat officer. Now, Ernest Borgnine was the producer's first choice for the lead role of Lieutenant Commander Quentin McHale. He was perfectly cast as the star of McHale's Navy, for he had served 10 years in the U.S. Navy. During World War II, he patrolled the Atlantic coast on an anti-submarine warship. He earned several decorations for his service. He left the service as a gunner's mate first class. At one point, he was actually considering making the Navy a career. But believe it or not, his mother talked him out of it and talked him into becoming an actor. That's a twist on things. When he was initially approached by his agent with the offer to star in 7 Against the Sea, which turned out to be the pilot for the show, he turned it down. Not long thereafter, a boy showed up on his doorstep selling candy. The boy told him that he looked familiar, but he couldn't place him. Now, Ernest Borgnine had already won an Oscar for his role in Marty, and he asked the boy if he knew who played the lead character, Paladin, in the television series Have Gun Will Travel. The boy said, "Yeah, Richard Boone." He was also immediately able to remember the names of several other television stars, even though he could still not remember who Borgnine was. After the boy had left, Ernest Borgnine called his agent to ask if that Navy pilot was still available. When he was told that it was, he told his agent to accept it. which was the beginning of what eventually would become his signature television series. It was Tim Conway who portrayed McHALE's likable but goofy second-in-command, Ensign Parker. It is this shy, often reserved, naive bungler who many times succeeds in spite of his prevalent ineptitude. Although he tries to be military, he is too goofy to command much respect. Many episodes revolve around Parker getting into trouble because of his clumsiness and ineptitude. Because of this, the crew feels that he will not survive as an officer without their help. He is very slow to catch on and does not know when to keep his mouth shut. McHALE usually gives Parker a discreet kick or a stomp on the foot to get him to shut up. He's passionate to cite naval regulations, which he knows by heart, yet at the same time, he has trouble remembering his serial number correctly. Conway dove into comedy when he began writing and then performing comedy skits on CBS. Later, comedian Rose Marie discovered him and arranged for him to audition for the Steve Allen Plymouth show. He so impressed Allen that Conway wound up with a regular spot on the show. He has credited Ernest Borgnine for being his favorite acting mentor and a good friend. After McHALES Navy ended in 1966, he and Borgnine worked together once again doing voiceover work for the animated series SpongeBob SquarePants. McHALE's always seemingly frustrated commanding officer, Captain Binghamton, is portrayed by comedic actor Joe Flynn. He's nicknamed Old Leadbottom because of a bullet wound to his posterior. Binghamton dreams of being promoted, but he's too much inept and a coward and a bit of a goofball himself. He is relentless on trying to get the goods on McHALE and his pirates. He cherishes the thought of all of them being sent to prison or being transferred. McHALE and his crew usually avoid these consequences for their actions by having some kind of military success. On occasion, he is seen throwing darts at a picture of McHALE. Joe Flynn began his entertainment career as a ventriloquist and a performer on the radio. During the Second World War, he served in the Army's Special Services branch, entertaining the troops stateside. After the war, he moved to the West Coast to complete his education and to pursue an acting career. By the late 1950s, Flynn achieved success on television, becoming a regular on the George Gobel Show. That landed him a role on the Joey Bishop Show in 1961. He was, however, dumped after the first season by Joey Bishop himself for reportedly stealing too many scenes from him. His unexpected exit from the Joey Bishop Show proved fortuitous, for he landed the role that made him a television immortal, Captain Wallace Leadbottom Binghamton. The real-life PT-73 was finished in August of 1942 by Higgins Industries Incorporated of New Orleans. It was 78 feet long, it weighed 56 tons, and had a top speed of 40 knots. It was assigned to the Motor Torpedo Boat Squadron 13 under the command of James B. Denny, United States Navy. Overall, the real PT-73 did not have the kind of illustrious combat record as depicted in the series. On January 15, 1945, it ran aground off the Philippine Islands after delivering supplies to Filipino guerrillas. It was then destroyed by her crew to prevent it from falling into enemy hands. 3 PT-73 boats were used in the show. One was for the shots at sea. 2 were converted 63-foot World War II Army Air Force Sea Rescue boats. The above decks were reconfigured to resemble the vessel used in filming the PT-73 Underway. The vessel used for the shot of the PT-73 Underway was a 72-foot Type II Vosper boat. That was a British design built and licensed in the U.S. The war ended in August of 1945 before the boat, her real number of which was PT 694, could actually be commissioned. It was then purchased by billionaire businessman Howard Hughes, and it was used as a chase boat for the one and only flight of his Spruce Goose aircraft in 1947. The boat was then purchased by Universal Pictures, since there were very few PT boats left in existence at the time. The PT-73 was later sold to the mayor of Hawthorne, California. He had converted it into a sport fishing boat. In 1992, it was destroyed when it broke loose from its mooring in Santa Barbara and washed up on the beach during a storm. For 138 half-hour episodes, Captain Binghamton, Ensign Parker, McHale, and the PT-73 crew, among others, kept us in stitches each week as we followed their crazy antics. To each of you, a warm, heartfelt thank you for the joy and the laughter you brought into our homes. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll keep chasing the classics.